collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
This week, a new app will soon help you compare supermarket prices.
An electronic application on the smartphones of people that they can go and check for every single product what different prices they can get from the market.
The presidential palace plans to implement a zero-waste strategy.
All the waste streams will be measured and sensibly managed with 95 to 100% verification that they will not end in landfills, but they will be reused or recycled.
And there's fun at the theatre this weekend.
Fate always seems to come into the picture and something disastrous always happens.
Coming your way very shortly, you'll be pleased to know, since I'm sure, like everybody, you've been affected by the cost of living crisis, there's a new app called the e-Galathi. Now, Galathi in Greek means basket, so it's your shopping basket app, very basically, and it will allow you to compare the prices of a lot of products. To tell us all about it, it's a warm welcome to the programme to our Minister of Commerce, George Papanastasiou. George, tell us first of all, what products will be in this Galathi or basket?
What I would like to just say before we go ahead, we are making a proposal for a law at the Ministerial Council in order for this to be progressed to become a law at the House of Parliament. So what we intend to do with this intended law is that we are going to, first of all, be aware of the prices of certain of the consumer goods that the consumer is buying a lot. Secondly, we are going to provide an electronic application, on the smartphones of people that they can, of course, go and check for every single product what different prices they can get from the market. This application will be flexible enough in order to put a lot of products on the application. For example, if your shopping basket for a day is 30-40 products, you can put all 30-40 products in the basket, and then the smartphone with the GPS will be aware where your location is and will identify the supermarket in the vicinity of the smartphone that can provide you with the lowest, let's say, purchase of the 30 or 40, let's say, items that you insert in your basket. So, in fact, what we are giving to the people is an electronic tool in order to help them to buy these products at a lower cost.
If you go into a supermarket and you want to buy, I don't know, let's say yogurt, I think that's one of the things that is in your basket. There are so many different brands. Are you just going to pick the cheapest brand? Because it might not be the brand that I want to buy. Perhaps I want to buy goat's yogurt, for example.
It depends on the supermarket, which brand and what brand names they want to place on the Galathi, on the e-basket. If, for example, a certain supermarket day decides that these are the brands of yogurt that they want to put in the basket, they will set only those. And of course, when they go to the shelf and you want to see which are the products that they are in the e-basket, they will be properly signed on the shelf of the supermarket as well. So it's up to the supermarket which products they put in the e-basket.
Does that not have a little bit of a danger that they might start putting up particular items which they're going to sell even at a loss to get people into the shops?
We have taken that into account as well, and the e-basket will not allow the change of prices. By the time that you inserted the price in the e-basket, it will be there for a week at least, unless it goes lower. So, for example, if I have 1.8, a certain price of the yogurt, and I call it a collar, and I am selling it at a loss, it has to stay at a loss for a week at least.
Now tell us about the sort of items that you're hoping to put in there. It isn't just food, is it? There's also things like, I think, toiletries and particularly items that for needy families with children will be very important.
Yes, originally we thought that we should start with approximately 1,500 codes of products. However, because it's a little bit stressed to start with so many products from the beginning, we thought of getting a first, an initial try with approximately 350 products. And mainly it will be consumers which they have a weight in the basket of the consumer. And mostly it's food, items which they relate to children, it's items which they relate to the households. So the 350, they will be well chosen, and it will be mostly items which they have a significant weight in the basket of the shopper.
Now, the legislation you were talking about, I think, is to do with penalising supermarkets who have a turnover over 2 million who don't want to join this.
Not really. I mean, the whole, arrangement, it is included in the law. But yes, indeed, it includes certain penalties. If, for example, a certain supermarket has a certain price for a product and then the consumer goes on the shelf and finds a different price, which is higher, then there is a penalty. And of course, if there are supermarkets above a turnover of 2 million and they do not include their prices of those products in the e-basket, you understand again there is a penalty. So the law is not created for the sake of creating an environment of penalties, but it's mostly in order to give the message that the ministry wants to know about your prices, the consumer wants to know your prices and compare with others under one platform without, having to go into supermarket by supermarket and do its own, assessment. It's a tool that will concentrate all that information.
Are the supermarkets going to have to put their prices into the app on the same day? Because if one does it on a Monday and another does it on a Thursday, it could get very confusing.
No, there is every day the supermarkets will have to confirm the prices they sell on a daily basis. That's the law. So every day, all products that they will be there, they will just be confirmed that the price is correct. So it's not just on the Monday and then on a Thursday. It will have to be daily.
It's going to be a lot of work for whoever's in the IT department of these big supermarkets.
Not really, because if the prices, they don't change daily. They just confirming the price, it means that you do not touch the price that you inserted the previous day.
Are you hoping, therefore, that this will mean that the prices stay much the same, possibly for weeks on end?
I believe the prices, they will stay for longer than just a week. It is a matter of when the supermarket gets the fresh supplies from the suppliers. And then that they will go and just check the prices if they are valid. But you understand, I mean, if they get something of a new supply at a lower cost, let's say, it's very risky to keep a high prices because you will lose the market. Because someone else, another supermarket, will just put it lower. So it is a dynamic, environment where the supermarkets will have to keep their prices at the price which they get from their suppliers, but at the same time, the consumers will have to make use of this, tool in order to put the pressure on those they sell the product, in order to be competitive.
I assume that the prices listed will include VAT, which brings me to another very quick question. I know you've got to go. That you have plans, do you not, to see if you can reduce the VAT on certain items?
Yes, that's a different, effort that we are placing with the Ministry of Finance, that we are going to reduce for certain products the VAT that is applicable on the products. And again, it's products which they have high, in consumption, and they have a serious weight in the basket of the purchaser. So yes, it's a different, arrangement. The VAT is one thing, the e-basket is another thing, and they are separate, they are not related in any way.
No, but you've got to get permission from Brussels, haven't you, to lower the VAT on certain items. When do you think that might come through?
We believe, but in the next 15 days we will get that consent of the EU in order to go ahead with the reduction of the VAT.
Well, it's all good news for consumers. Where can they find this app? I presume it's still in the sort of final stages of being got ready for consumption, as it were.
Yes, the application is not as yet available in Cyprus. The intention is to get it off the shelf from Greece, and Greece, they kindly offered it to be given for the Cyprus market. But until it is ready for, use in the Cyprus environment, We need to do a few adjustments.
And when? Do we know?
The planning that we have in the ministry is that we will have it released by the end of the summer.
Okay, we look forward to that. A pleasure talking to you, George. Nice to meet you. And that's our
Nice to meet you, Rosie. All the best. Bye-bye. Thank you.
That's George Papanastasiou, our Commerce Minister, talking there not only about the proposed reduction in VAT, but also about that upcoming app, which will help you to make your shopping a little cheaper.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
There were announcements in the press last week that the presidential palace is going to implement a zero waste to landfill strategy. So joining us to tell us what exactly is involved is our Environment Commissioner, Maria Panayotou. Maria, thanks for joining us. Tell us how this is going to work, please.
Oh, well, first, thank you for the invitation. I have to tell you that this initiative to transform the presidential palace into zero waste to landfill building is a joint effort with the First Lady, Philippa Katsias-Christodoulidis, and it is of essential importance because, we're trying to raising awareness of the public opinion on that. Well, how it will work? Zero waste to landfill building means that all the waste streams will be measured and sensibly managed with 95 to 100% verification that they will not end in landfills, but they will be reused or recycled in licensed facilities by licensed operators. So in order to achieve that, in order to achieve zero waste to landfill verification, means that more than 95% of our waste must be recycled or reused. There are more than 10 steps that you have to follow in order to succeed that. Conduct a waste audit, implement a waste reduction program, establish a waste management team, and lots of others. But if you want, we can speak more on that. But in addition to that, we're also trying to enrich the park that is the presidential palace surrounded, and trying to enrich that into a pollinator garden. So if you want, we can talk more about those activities as well. So we are trying to transforming the presidential palace into a zero waste to landfill building. We are trying to enhance the biodiversity of the area. As I've told you, a pollinator garden. We have already planted the flowers, to be honest. So we have already done that. A pollinator garden has been already planted, and we will enrich the area with bee trophic plants, and in order to support the bee population. We've already placed some artificial bird nests. We have already installed devices for the water need for the birds that they will need it during the summer. What is really important is that we have already 2 composters placed in the presidential area for the organic waste. So what we have also done is that we permanently abolished the use of the plastic bottles. So all the employees have been provided with reusable water bottles. So this is very important.
Let me ask you, it's impossible actually, isn't it, to do zero waste to landfill because there are an awful lot of items that we cannot yet recycle in Cyprus. I'm thinking that in other countries, for example, cigarette butts can be recycled and here they can't. Do we not need first to expand the items that can be recycled so that we can all do this?
Yes, we need to expand that. We need to, to engage all the industry into this transformation. But until we succeed that, which will take long, that doesn't mean that we have to stop making, activities and initiatives as those in the presidential palace. So until we will be able to succeed that and expand the items that can be recycled or reused. We are making small steps in order to succeed. Zero waste to landfill in several buildings. So we are starting with the presidential palace, and hopefully we'll have that in other government buildings or in other buildings in the private sector.
Right, now how are you going to manage to expand those items? Because we only have very few companies that do recycling in Cyprus, and I think we need a more holistic approach, don't we, to all the items that we used, and possibly legislation to stop importing some of the dangerous items.
Okay, the holistic policy is necessary in order to succeed that, but we're having in the next year, the summer of 2024, the paying as much as you throw, which is really important in order to reduce the waste. That means that everybody will change the way we manage the waste in our house. We have to increase what we recycle, and this is an important step towards that. In order to, create more industries, to engage more companies to come and to be involved in the recycling industry, if this is the correct term, what I want to say is that we're 1 million of people, so I'm not quite sure that we need more companies. We need to engage more people into recycling, but I don't think that the companies will come.
So basically you're saying that because we're a small country, it's not, let's say, practical to ask big companies to come in. But there are companies here that already do recycling. What about incentives to make them extend the items they're able to recycle? Well, I'm thinking of, like, Green Dot gets paid by the packaging importers to put something towards recycling the packaging.
Glass and paper, yes.
Yes, but there's so many other things that could be recycled and aren't. I know that the municipalities, I think next year, are going to be responsible for organic waste collection.
Yes, I'm paying as much as I throw. This is the new law that everyone and everybody has to be involved, and the municipalities will have a major role into that. And this is, a great change in the way we use and we manage our waste.
What about the role of education? Because in schools, I know they introduced environmental classes, I believe, but I don't think that they're conducted by teachers trained in environmental issues. And surely we need to teach our kids from a very early age that waste is important. I think in Germany now they don't call it waste anymore, they call it valuable resources or something. We need to change our attitudes to the whole idea of just chucking things out and somebody else will come and collect it.
Yes, to be honest, what I've realized during those weeks that I have been appointed in this position is that the teachers are educated and the kids are educated indeed. Those that are not very educated are the people in my generation. We have to change our culture and the way we behave. The kids do know how to recycle. The kids know about food waste. Things that many people in my age don't really know and don't really apply in their homes. So my opinion is that we have to educate the adults. Those has to be our target, the adults and people in the 30s and in the 40s, that they really have to change their culture. The kids do know and do have great programs in the school that really help in order to develop this culture, besides the activities done by the Ministry of Education. We have the example of the junior achievement, that all the kids have developed those devices and a material that actually are green and they are reused or recycled.
Can I just interrupt there and say, and what about if you're in touch with the Minister of Education, getting every public school in Cyprus, they've all got yards, to create school gardens where the kids can learn to grow their own food and maybe also plant a little area for the bees.
Well, yes, they do have gardens actually in the schools, but yes, of course, we need to enrich those gardens, and we need to develop more things and bring the kids closer to the nature. But all things are already done. What we don't have is a garden in our house. We don't grow our own vegetables. So this is an area that we have to focus.
Maria, I have to interrupt you there. I've been to many schools because I do a lot of this sort of work with schools talking about recycling, and most of their yards are either sort of scrubby earth with patches of weeds or obviously the sports courts. I haven't seen a single school with either a vegetable patch or a wild flower garden.
Okay, they don't have vegetable plants, but they do have botanic gardens. Many schools do have botanic gardens. I'm not saying that all schools have botanical gardens. I do realize that all schools need to develop that. But that doesn't mean that. What I'm trying to say is that the schools are already trying to do all this planting and bring the kids more closer to nature and planting.
We have to wrap this up because we're going to be running over time, but let me just suggest that since a very large number of our public school pupils live in apartments where there is no garden, their only chance, unless their parents bother to take them out to some of our parks, to commune with nature and to understand things about butterflies and bees and indeed where our food comes from. Yes. It could be done in schools because most of them have the space, but they need to actually implement a programme.
Yes, that's why we're having those programs, bringing the schools, the kids closer to the nature. We have the environmental centres in Athalassa that, and in other areas in country that kids can learn about birds, about planting. I'm not saying that we have succeeded that in 100%, but things have been done. Of course, there are things that have to be done more. But if I am allowed, I think that my generation, people in the 30s and in the 40s, they need to be educated now. They need to be educated yesterday. There are houses that they are not recycling, and this is very disappointed. So we need to make campaigns in order to involve people more into that.
And we need to make them reduce in the first place so there isn't so much to recycle.
Reduce, reuse, and realize how all our actions are affecting the environment.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Have you got a time frame for when you can say the presidential palace is as close as it can get to zero waste?
We will be able to give you our first results in 12 months from now, and as soon as we have the certification, we will make, of course, the announcement. We have lots of steps to do until get the verification, but we will try to succeed that in the following month.
Maria Panayiotou, Environment Commissioner of Cyprus, many thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Tonight is the first night of a 3-night run of a comedy that was a huge hit back, I think, in the early 70s. It's called The Mating Game, and its director joins us now. John Williamson, thanks very much indeed. Tell us a bit about this particular play, because it's, I suppose we could call it a sexy comedy, could we? Which was very much in vogue back when it was written.
Very much so, Rosie. It was a great hit on the West End, but it had, as it was definitely in the 70s, it had some shock value. One of the leading actresses was topless. A lot of people walking around in very little clothing. Very much a piece of the period, which obviously I've had to change to bring it up to date.
And had to change because of our woke culture now, I imagine, and gender, well, respect.
Well, yeah, and also I think it's different. I'm working with mainly an amateur company. Most of the actors I'm using have actually never performed before. So it's totally different from a professional actor who would say yes or no immediately. I was aware that I just have to be a bit more careful, shall we say.
Circumspect. Tell us a bit about the play and what it's all about.
Well, it's about Draycott Harris, who is an incredibly successful TV host. He even claims to be bigger than Oprah. He's everywhere. He's on 6 nights a week. He has everything. Beautiful women around him, money, a penthouse apartment in the centre of London, except one thing. And the play revolves about him trying to resolve this problem.
Well, go on, tell us what the problem is.
Well, he's a virgin.
Which, back in the 70s, probably wasn't so unusual in the early 70s. Well, how does that play out in this day and age?
It does relate because a lot of men, particularly, claim from a very early age about their conquests. And in most cases, they have not conquered anything. It's all in their imagination. And it doesn't necessarily reflect on somebody's ability with the fairer sex, whether he's successful as a celebrity, whether he's actually indulging. You know, this guy's working 6 days a week, all day, every day. So, in fact, he's probably coming home and going straight to bed. He's not got a chance to... well, he does have chances, but fate always seems to come into the picture and something disastrous always happens.
Is it slapstick? How would you describe it?
No, it's farce, which is, in my view, one of the most difficult things for a performer to do. I've got to say, my cast have really done incredibly well in dealing with this because it is incredibly fast-paced. It involves doors, people coming in on the timing has got to be incredibly explicit. I mean, I suppose it is. In a sense, it's slightly adult pantomime, if I think about it. No, it's just really an incredibly fast-paced comedy.
Is there a message at the end of the play?
What you're probably looking for desperately is actually under your nose all the time. Men in particular search for the perfect specimen, that, oh my God, look at her, and fail to see what's around them, which happens in the play. He discovers he's actually in love with his secretary, who has been there with him throughout his rise to fame.
Spoiler alert, really, that I think probably is, but nevertheless, people are going to have a jolly good laugh. You were involved, I think, when you were an actor in the UK with this. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, I worked with Terry Scott, who was a very successful British comedian. TV-wise, he had a string of television hits, probably particularly well known for Terry and June with June Whitfield. I was also working with Barbara Windsor, who was a Carry On star and latterly a star of, God rest her soul, of EastEnders. Kathy Staff, who played Nora Batty in Last of the Summer Wine, the longest running comedy in British TV history, and a very good actress, Janet Eddis. We did it summer season in Bournemouth, 1989, and it was the most successful show in the whole summer season. You know, Blackpool, etc. We were the number one. Sold out every show.
So tell us about this particular production. It opens tonight, I believe, at the Dionysos Theatre. Tell us more about the other performances and where people can get tickets.
Well, it's tonight at 8 o'clock. Tickets are still available. Probably best at this stage to pick them up at the front of our house. Tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock again. You can book your tickets on 99417315. Ticket price of €15. And the Sunday is a matinee starting at 3:30. And again, either pick your tickets up at the door or on the telephone number I've just said, 99417315.
That is John Williamson, director of The Mating Game, which runs this weekend at the Dionysos Theatre in Nicosia. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.